Welcome to UpYourStack podcast. I'm your host, Noah Burke. I'm also the co-founder of an elite HubSpot solutions partner called OBO. Every week, we feature some of our favorite HubSpot app partners who've either built their applications on HubSpot or have integrated with HubSpot to help you get the most out of your HubSpot tech stack. And today, I am super excited to have my guest, Chris Brisson from SalesMsg. Chris, welcome to the show today.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to dive in.
Chris, what is SalesMsg? Let's just start there. Let the guests know what it is that you guys do.
SalesMsg is an all-in-one texting, calling, ring this voicemail platform. So people come to us because they have a problem with connecting with their leads or customers. So we give you the ability to send and receive text messages online from your computer. We have a mobile app. We integrate really well into HubSpot, one of the top apps in that ecosystem. And the modern business is using calling and email, and sort of the other frontier is SMS. And so I'd consider us like best of breed texting platform for HubSpot and many other CRMs. Yeah.
So I imagine when you got started, Chris, SMS has been around forever. Back to the flip phone, back before flip phones, where you had to literally go through each and every key. Where did this come from? I would have imagined a while ago this idea already existed, but how did you see an opportunity in the marketplace to come in with this tool?
Funny. So I've been in texting since 2010. So it's a long time ago. It's almost like 14 years ago. So another company we have called Call Loop, that's been around since 2010. And so that does SMS, calling, some similar features to SalesMsg. But in 2015, that company really just did like outbound. And I just found myself wanting to be able to send and receive text messages without my phone, because I was texting from my own personal phone. And I was like, man, there's really not a tool out there that can integrate. At the time I was using Infusionsoft and ActiveCampaign. And I just wanted something to do two-way texting. And so it's a longer story, but it spun out of this other company with the lack of being able to have two-way texting and then really build it into CRM. The ultimate goal was, it was a little bit different back then. This is 2017 when we launched it. The whole story is it's pretty interesting how we formed it all, but
I'd love to hear part of it. So keep going into the story. I don't want to take that away from you.
So this is 2015. So the company Call Loop wasn't really running very well. Like I'd consider it a zombie startup. It wasn't growing, it wasn't dying, but the tech was really bad. And so it was always breaking. And everything that went right was me, and everything that went wrong was me. And there was a lot more wrong. And so I was like, man, I wanted to create something better. And so I sent an email to about 35,000 people, which was like the list that we had on Call Loop at the time. And the subject line was the death of Call Loop. And it was basically like a declaration that wanted to create a better business, a better company, because I couldn't solve their problems because the tech we had was just, it wasn't good enough. We couldn't turn. So SalesMsg came through just that bigger vision to create a better business, a better company, to really solve like customer problems, and sent it out on the tail end of that 3-part series was follow my journey as I reinvent Call Loop from the ground up, and what I'm calling the second chance startup. And so that was it. And so spent a year building this other product no one wanted.
Chris, that is brilliant.
Yeah.
Can I pause you there for a second, Chris? So what you realize, and I think this is a great lesson for a lot of entrepreneurs who may feel stuck right now, is sometimes you have to be a little bit extreme. And in your particular case, you said, hey, listen, just simply sending out emails saying, hey, I don't like my product, it's not good anymore, probably wouldn't get much attention whatsoever. People are like, yeah, sure, Chris, I already know. Like we use it, but it's not that great. Instead, you say, hey, listen, I want you to pay attention to what I'm about to say. It is death here. This is the death of closed loop at this point, to really be able to garner their attention. I think that is not just being tactical. Were you aware of how this strategy was going to play out?
No, honestly, it was more cathartic. Like I felt like whether you want to call it like a midlife crisis, that might have been it. But no, it's just like, you know what? Like I'm tired. Like I really want to create something way more impactful. And that wasn't the horse. And so it's just the search to find a better horse, but also being able to solve problems. The problem with Call Loop is at the time I couldn't solve problems. So like we couldn't create anything, and it's cool. Let's conquer the world. but we can't build it. So anyhow, so it was just like being able to just start all over. And so it was a really beautiful time. It was very painful, but it was exactly what had to happen in order to create a new possibility. And so from that, SalesMsg was born, and here we are today. So we've got 60 plus people all over the world, fully remote company. We're able to build a really great product that solves like real problems. And it feels really good to listen and learn and talk to customers and solve their problems. And in exchange, you build a
So
cool
where
company in the
did
process.
and where did the idea of SalesMsg come about? So at the time, was it a particular feature within the previous organization? You said, hey, this is something that people are really resonating with. We should just build this out as a product.
Yeah, honestly, it was just more like people were using Call Loop to send out more outbound SMS marketing campaigns. But people just kept coming, hey, how do we do two-way texting? I want to do two-way texting. And I found myself like, I want to text, but I was stuck using my phone. While Call Loop solved the marketing use case, SalesMsg set out to solve like the conversational use case. So that was really where it came from, was just, hey, I know this messaging thing is interesting. If I were to start all over and put myself out of business, like what would that look like? And I knew exactly what to do. And so there it was. It was like, I would do this, I would do that, I would do that. So that's really where it came from, was just not being satisfied. The email chain, it's funny, I saw it the other day because I send it to like new employees and I'm like, hey, take a look. Here's where it came from. And the URL was callloop.com/done. That was the first one. Callloop.com/done with was the second. And then the third was done with mediocrity. And that was it. I was like, I'm done with mediocrity. I really want to build a great company. And so it was that declaration. There's tons of comments. People are like, this is the stupidest thing ever. Other people like, this was amazing. But I didn't care. I was like, I needed to just like be okay with the result. So.
And the words you use, I think, I can't even enunciate that
Cathartic,
word right there. But yeah. And in reality, I think for anyone who's listening to this show right now, this was a really big move to be able to say, one, to essentially, we are no longer doing this. Yes, it's making money. It's middle of the road. It's nothing I'm necessarily excited about. I'm sure there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there who are in that similar position. They're not excited. And it's like someone who's trying to boil the ocean, take over the world, do everything. And you said, no, let's focus. It sounds like you said, I want to focus on this one particular capability that I know I have this problem. If I have this problem, that means everyone else is going to have this problem. And it sounds like you were really confident in your own technical capabilities to execute on SalesMsg. What do you suppose are some key factors that led to your traction and growth? Was it that message? Was it the initial email that led to the growth, or what were factors that started leading to this growth for you?
Funny thing is so after that whole thing happened, we were set out to rebuild Call Loop. And about a month in, I talked to my developer at the time, like, how long is it going to take? He's like, a year and a half. I'm like, wrong answer. We need it tomorrow. So anyhow, I'm like, hey, I got this other idea. It's called Kick a Conference. It was an audio conferencing platform like Uber Conference. This is like back in the day. And so we spent a year building this product, spent $100,000 at least, and no one wanted it. And so about 6 months into that, I was like, I don't know. I don't think this Kick a thing is going to work out. So about 6 months in, I was like, let me go back to that original idea. Let me put this, if I were to put Call Loop out of business, what would I do? SalesMsg came from that. So at the end of this 12 months, like 1 year spending building this product no one wanted because they didn't talk to anybody. I told my developer, I'm like, hey man, let's stop doing that. But I got this other idea. And so I pitched him the idea. Is great. Let me get coding. I'm like, no. I'm like, don't do anything. Let me sell it first. I don't want to make the same mistake we did. So I had the list. So I put together, and in the meantime, like a couple months into it, like I can whip up Photoshop, I can design. So I just designed some mock-ups and everything. I was like, let me do a webinar. That was on a Monday. We had the webinar on a Thursday, and I sent it out to Call Loop customers and just pre-sold it. I forget how much. It was like $250 for the year or something like that. But we made $3,000-$4,000 like that day. And I was like, okay, like people want it. And so that just gave that initial cool. I don't want to build something people don't want. They gave me money. They like whipped out their wallet. Let's start building. And so 2017, we really started to build the product. And really 2018, I would consider that like the first year that we really took off. 2017 was a lot of testing and whatnot. From that was like we integrated into early on, we integrated into like Infusionsoft because that was like the community, that was the world I came from. We integrated into like Active Campaign. And then I think HubSpot probably maybe 2 years into it or a year into it. And there's certain customers that can use conversational texting, and there's other customers that are just like, they want marketing automation. And so when you look at that lens, on an Infusionsoft customer, they're a small company, they don't really have a lot of teams, but a HubSpot customer, right? Bigger companies, they've got teams, they have different departments. It's all around inbound marketing and conversations. And so it just became a perfect fit for SalesMsg to be in part of the HubSpot ecosystem. So we've doubled down. We've really built a great product, went deep on everything that they have given us the ability to do, which is the best because there's no other company in the world that really allows developers and apps to solve their problems, right? And they all want one tool, and that's called HubSpot. And they all want it to integrate and connect and just make life easy. And God bless HubSpot. Thank you.
Hopefully someone on HubSpot is listening to this right now.
They should be.
Be able to give you guys kudos to it. You said something really interesting. So when you kind of part of this origin story of the sales message was sending out email, getting a webinar, but I think you said something that's really important. You have to talk to your customers. And I think oftentimes people build before really talking to them. Of course, we've all learned about the lean startup. And even the precursor to that was the 4 Steps to an Epiphany. If you guys haven't read that book yet, those are great as well. 4 Steps to Epiphany, that's the OG. Yeah. And I think it's oftentimes as entrepreneurs, we tend to just build before talking. And a common phrase, voice of the customers. What does the customer want? So it was pretty impressive. And I just wanted to talk about that for a second because on your you did that webinar, you put it out there, you talked to the customer, if there's interest, and then you start building. But you had gone through this other iteration where, as you said earlier, you hadn't really talked to the customer, you just start building. Yeah. So when you look at your application today, when you look at SalesMsg today, how are you building for the future? What's your approach to that?
Yeah, I love talking to customers. And I've just made a more...
Now, did you always love talking to them, or was it
I love solving problems, right? I see the world through being able to solve problems. So like when I talk to somebody and they're expressing some frustration or something wrong, I'm like, oh, that's a really great feature. We should be looking at that. Or yeah, I can see how that can be. Oh, how do we one-click it? And so this is years ago. I was watching a guy named Vern Harnish. He wrote Scaling Up Rockefeller Habits, if you've read any of those books. So I'm listening to Vern speak and he's like, what businesses are you guys in? And everyone's like, I'm in the transportation business. I'm in the relationship business. I'm in the... People are getting fancy. And the business that you're really in is, and you're in the easy button business. And he's like, Uber, one click, right? Amazon, one click. And so you think of like your product as this like string of frustration. And it's, man, if we got rid of all that stuff in between to give them that ultimate outcome, like how do they just like literally click a button and then get that outcome? And so the future is that. Thank God AI can help solve for all those frustration along the way. And so that's the way we're thinking about it. At least that's the way that I'm thinking about it, to have our team thinking about it. It's like, man, how do we get rid of all this frustration? How do we get it to one click? How do we add just all the optimization in between to give them the ultimate outcome? So one, like I love talking to customers because these discoveries just happen when you talk to them and just those experiences. Yep. And because I understand the product very well, the nuances of all those things, I can see it differently than somebody else that may not. And they may be in a different department. They're only seeing that world. So one, like taking a systematic approach to customer feedback. Number two, we use a tool called Canny. So it's canny.io, and it's like an upvoting for product feedback. And so that is a great tool to really like, hey, what's the voice of the customer? What are we going to build? And rather than making assumptions, cool, let's let our company, internal and external, whether they're having communication on intercom or talking to a customer or a phone call or an email came in or the customer goes to there and they click upvote. it just becomes that one central hub for customer feedback on what to build. That controls our roadmap. And so that's been a really amazing product that just gives us a true lens on what we're going to work on for the quarter. So, yeah. And one of the best emails, I think everybody should use this. I send it out periodically. It used to be automated, but we got a lot that came from it.
Okay.
And so the email subject line is, what's the worst thing about sales message? Actually, it's what's the absolute worst thing about sales message? And then the copy is like, hey,
I'm seeing a theme in your emails, by the way, now.
Yeah. Yeah. And then in the copy is like, hey, it's Chris. I really want to know what's the worst thing about it. Feedback is a gift. I really want to understand like what's wrong. More people are going to be saying, like, people want to talk about the things that are wrong more than they want to talk about the things that are right. So you can lean into that. That email crushes. So if you want to get real feedback, that's like the best email. And people give you the real feedback. And then I love customers that complain, where other people are like, oh, they complain so much. I'm like, I love you because you're the one that's going to tell me what's wrong. Those are the best people. And so the ones that are like the squeaky wheel, yeah, you're going to learn a lot. And for the people that take the time, I love talking to those people because they're the ones trying to solve the problems and banging their head. I listened to we use a tool called Grain for our recording. It's an awesome call recording tool.
Yep.
And so I listened to this guy's call and man, he said like 7 different problems. And I was like, 1, that sucks. But number 2, thank God. And then cool, here's all these things. Team, let's take care of that. Let's solve those problems. The best part is like when you can say, hey, I heard you. I tracked that. I sent it to the team and it's going to get done in a week or 2 weeks. That's awesome. And so being able to solve problems quick, that's how you really create just a really great community of customers that trust you and then believe your word, which integrity is everything in business.
Yeah. I think this goes all the way back to the easy button as part of your ethos. Is everything from those reaching out to customers, you probably find out, oh, wait, this isn't that easy. These are the comments they're saying. I would also argue that those customers must really like you. Partly because if they didn't like you, they wouldn't bother giving you any feedback whatsoever.
Yeah.
And they believe in what you're doing. They believe in the product. They believe in the effort you're putting forth. And I think radical transparency is fantastic, especially with the customers. And like I said, there's a theme in what you're doing here on these email messages. So anyone listening to this, you'll notice the first theme, the death of, and then the second theme is, again, can you rephrase, what is that subject line you use again?
Yeah. What's the absolute worst thing about blank? It's great. Okay, crush it.
People are almost more motivated by something that's quote negative, or I don't know if provocative is the right word, or whatever the case may be, to get attention, but it shows that you care to make this product better. I think this is part of the reason for your success. So let me ask you this. How is Sales Message differentiating itself in the marketplace versus other similar tools?
Yeah. One, like we care. We're very prolific with solving problems. And so we may not be the best in the world or a small company in the sense like we're not venture backed, we're bootstrapped. So to work at the pace of like a big VC backed company, like we're doing it the way that we're doing it. When it comes to other companies, like Sales Message really makes it as seamless and integrated as possible. And so while there are platforms that may not have like the best UI and make it a little bit clunky, and when you dive into one thing on the surface, maybe their website looks great, but then when you get into like the integration and really what you need and those little micro problems that you solve, that when you dig into the nitty gritty, like, man, I really need, I don't know, for HubSpot, like an association on a company record, these very minute little things that are very impactful and meaningful to like your workflow. And so I think a lot of other platforms may dismiss a lot of that nuance. And while we want that, like we want to solve those micro sort of use cases. And so it's funny, we had a customer a while back and he showed us his spreadsheet of comparing all the features. He was shopping. He was looking for SMS provider. like, here's all the features I need. And then the columns are like all of our competition. And he started to go through, and it's funny, he showed us an Excel spreadsheet. Man, I started to go through, like, Sales Message just checked the box for everything. Meanwhile, like, all these competitors, they didn't do that, or they didn't do this, or they didn't do that, or they didn't do that, or maybe they claimed to do that, but when you really get in detail, they didn't really do that. And so I want to be able to solve like a lot of those nuanced issues. So not only do we do two-way texting really well, especially when it comes to HubSpot, but you can do broadcasting for the marketing side of things. We integrate into workflows.
Sure.
Everything gets logged in like HubSpot's logging. So then you can run reports and analytics on that. We populate like contact properties. I think we've got custom objects coming out soon. So like HubSpot is always enhancing their APIs and development. And we're like, cool, what's next? What's next? What's next? What's next?
Yeah.
So we've invested a ton of money to make that product really good. And so if you're coming from HubSpot and you're like, man, I really want SMS tool that does two-way conversations. I can use local number, short codes, toll-free number. I can integrate it into workflows. My team can use it, or they can collaborate on it. We can have notes and all this sort of stuff. It's very robust. And so, yeah, that's the way I would position it, is we are constantly building. And so if you look at it today, or even 6 months ago, it's like, man, we built so much. We rebuilt the product from the ground up. There's a whole like 2.0, which just solves a lot more of these. It's just so much better. It's like when you create your first version, you're like, that's what we're going to do. And then over time, you're like, this thing is getting pretty gross. Let's rebuild it. And so we went through that.
What type of companies are buying from you? Are they B2B? Are they B2C? Does it is it across the gamut? Who is your customer generally?
Yeah, we've got franchises. We have experts and gurus. We have real estate firms, real estate organizations. We work with top recruiting companies. A good sort of customer is someone that, again, you got a sales, marketing, a support use case. They'll come in with, hey, I just need to solve this problem of like engagement. So they come in, they solve that problem, like speed to lead. So somebody fills a form out, you engage with them through SMS, and then, wow, I can do reviews with it. Oh my gosh, my marketing team can send out promotional texting. Oh my gosh, my team can use it for calling too. And so it just has become this all-in-one communications app. So like the bigger vision is like, how do we become the leading omni-channel messaging platform for sales, marketing, support teams? And so each team has like different needs and wants. So like a sales team, like I need round robins, and I need two-way texting, and I need private conversation. There's so many needs. And then a marketing team, and then you get into customer support, and they have their needs, wants, desires, integrations, all that stuff. So that's the bigger vision. And so this new platform, like we're set out to do that.
Primarily is it on the sales side that's reaching out and saying, hey, I need a sales, or are you actually seeing as the marketing leader, or maybe the service leader who's reaching out, or is it hard to even say which team it is?
Yeah, all the above. So we have a framework. We're writing a book right now. It's called Textize Your Business. And what that...
Great name.
Yeah. So what Textize means is we have a philosophy. So Simon Sinek, he wrote the book Start With Why. The best companies in the world start with why, not with how, right? Or what. And so we've been a very what company for quite some time, which is building product, building features. But the next future really is, how do we educate, teach how people can use messaging? So a lot of people come in, like 70%, they're like, I've never done it before. What do I do? And then you got 30% like, yep, done it before. I know exactly what to do. And so there's a whole world of people that are just like brand new to text messaging, even though, like you mentioned at the beginning of the call, it's been around forever, right? And so what Textize is, it's a methodology that texting plays a part across the entire life cycle. So you can use texting and messaging to generate leads. You can use it to engage and qualify. You can use it to increase attendance to a webinar or event, or reduce no-shows for meetings. You can use it to drive like a ton of revenue through promotional texting, to get reviews, referrals, the whole sort of like life cycle and flywheel. And you can use messaging across all of it. And more importantly is, it's just like one text. It's not like this whole workflow and all this sort of stuff. It's just add one text message to like that and you'll increase
It doesn't have to be overly complicated.
No.
It can be simple.
Yeah. It's like just add a text here and you'll reduce no-shows about 30%. Do you think that will help your business? Absolutely.
Wow.
So Textize is this book we wrote or writing. And it's just that. It's a framework from which any company can understand how to use texting across the life cycle. So cool. You want to use it for lead gen. Here's the campaigns to do that. Hey, if you want to use it for promotional texting, here's how you can do that. And then you have the technology. So like SalesMsg has a lot of the features and functionality to actually make that stuff happen. We've got keywords and text join and all sorts of different stuff to whatever use case you have, SalesMsg should solve it. Because people don't want to use that tool for this or this tool for that or that tool for that. The world really wants to be more simple, and like, how do we make life simple? So
agreed. Obviously, AI is big these days. How is AI going to play a part in your future product, your roadmap? Yeah. What does that look like?
It's easy button, man. Like, that's the goal, is how do we get, because again, it's the future is how do we get to removing friction in all of that stuff. So you come in, hey, like Zapier did a great job for building a Zap. Is cool. You just type in what you want and then it'll help you get to like closer to the outcome, right? So how do we help customers get closer to the outcome? So one of the things we're working on, it's coming out pretty soon, super excited about this, is we're not sure on the name, but it's basically a text bot. And so, but it's a qualification data capture. So you imagine in a world where, you know, the challenge with text messaging is on your end as a business, someone needs to be there to respond. What a great way, right? And that person's busy and whatnot. So like AI should play a part in this process. So we've got this text bot where you can capture data. So, hey, and it will have real natural language to have a real conversation with a person on the other end. They wouldn't know the difference with a bot. And now you can capture data. So what's your email? What's your square footage? Whatever data and information you want to capture, it'll capture that information, store it in SalesMsg, push it to the CRM. And so you go at scale, man, how do you use this to qualify leads? And really, ultimately, what's the outcome? Hey, you want to book more meetings? You want to drive more revenue? And so this sort of text bot can do that. So it's in the works. It should be in beta in like,
that sounds awesome,
2 weeks or something. Yeah.
It's interesting because obviously that's pretty commonplace now in chat, but not so much in text, it sounds like. Yeah. And it's a pretty cool feature. I can imagine a lot of organizations. I think you gave some examples more on the B2C side. Maybe you're selling energy services, or maybe you're selling solar, or whatever else the case may be. To your point, it's the individual who's receiving the text that may take too much time. And as we all know, it's the amount of time you get back to, how fast you get back to the customer, oftentimes wins. Yeah. Now, does the customer need to know it's an AI or a human? I don't really know if they necessarily care so much, as long as they feel like something is moving forward. If you text that plumber and you need help, they may not be there to answer that immediately, but you need help. So tell me what the issue is. At least they feel as though there's momentum in the process. I do like to ask, especially with a lot of the guests on the show, what is a really kind of fun customer experience that you've had over the years? You're like, man, that was a new one for me.
I thought this was really cool. So Grant Cardone, he's a customer of ours. And so I was on Instagram one day, and it's, the thing with text is it doesn't need to be crazy. I come from the world of creating these wild, complicated workflows and if then and if that. And guess what? I was the man in the machine. I was the only person that knew how that stuff worked. And then I remember the guy saying, hey, this is too complicated. I want my money back. I'm like, oh, what? You don't want this complicated, amazing machine? So anyhow,
hey, so easy button? What are you talking about?
Yeah. So it goes back to a lot of what I'll talk about is just really simple. But it's just doing it. And so Grant Cardone, I'm on Instagram one day and I see a story and it's like, hey, for property, swipe up. And I swipe up and it opens up my text messaging. It pre-fills the phone number, pre-fills the body with, hey, I'm interested in whatever, bam. And so all I had to do is swipe up, click go, and then instantly I'm in a conversation. And it's, oh, so how do we get to click conversation, like one click conversation? So, gosh, I was one of, you name it. how many people swiped up. And so that's just a really cool, unique way to use text messaging. We've been sponsoring inbound for 4 years, 5 years, something like that. And so I literally just got off a call talking about what we're going to do for inbound. And so it's like, how do you go from QR code to conversation? One click, right? Like one click. Hey, scan this, boom, it pops up a text and instantly you're talking with somebody. They reply back in, that goes right through a chat bot, qualifies them, because all I know is your number. And so now you start to get into a conversation. Instantly, I can get your name, your email, your square footage, like whatever information I need, and then hand it off to somebody else. And then a real human can step in and have that conversation. So it's, how do you go from like click to conversation? And so those are some just simple use cases, right? And that's lead gen. And then you go, what about like referrals? And you just start to think through all the different parts of the business that you can just add like one little strategy. So
Chris, that's awesome. So I'm gonna rephrase that or simplify it by calling it the swipe up method that you discovered. It's a swipe up approach. Yeah. Chris, this has been absolutely awesome. The information, the tool itself, how you came about to where you are today, the lessons learned along the way, from the, we'll call it the easy button, to the provocative email, to talking to your customers, all of which has led to where this product is today. And you guys are doing awesome. I see you all throughout the HubSpot ecosystem, always at Inbound. Excited to see you there again this year, which I'll stop by to say hello. And that really wraps it up. So again, to all of our listeners, thank you so much for joining us. Again, Up Your Stack is a weekly podcast that we bring to you each week, where we talk to some of our favorite app partners and developers who are building their apps either on HubSpot or integrated with HubSpot. Chris, if people are interested to learn more, how can they find out more information about SalesMsg?
Yeah, go to salesmsg.com or find me on LinkedIn. That's where I seem to spend a lot more of my time there. So, yeah, connect on LinkedIn, reach out to salesmsg.com. And if you're going to be at Inbound, love to say hi.
Awesome. And Chris, I also give a big shout out to everyone. Check out the HubSpot app ecosystem. They're also in there as well, so you can check them out there too. And if you are interested in leveling up your HubSpot, feel free to reach out to OBO as well, www.theobogroup.com. And to learn more about our podcast, check out UpYourStack.com. We'll have more interviews with great app partners just like Chris. Chris, thank you for joining me.
Awesome. Thanks so much, man.